Darkness. It is said the world was built on 9 pillars, 9 races, each born with gifts from the gods. Some wielded fire and light, others shadow and song. And at the bottom, forgotten by heaven, stood humans. Among them was a boy named Light. An adventurer by title, a dreamer by nature. His gift, unlimited gacha, was mocked as a joke, a childish power fit only for pulling useless trinkets from thin air. Yet Light believed that even a worthless gift could shine, if one had the courage to use it. Tonight, that courage would be tested. Inside the cursed dungeon known as the Abyss, Light's party pressed deeper than anyone before. Torches burned blue, walls whispered in tongues long dead. He felt pride, fear, belonging, all at once. His companions laughed, their armor clinking like false bells of trust. For a fleeting moment, he thought he'd found a family. Then the laughter stopped. A dagger found his back before his mind could find words. He turned, eyes wide, breath frozen. Their leader, cloaked in gold, met his gaze without mercy. "You were never one of us. A human with power? That's a danger we can't afford." The shove came swift. Stone vanished beneath him. He fell into a spiral of black, a silence so complete it swallowed his scream. When consciousness returned, Light was alone. Blood pooled at his feet, dripping into a pit that had no end. Around him, monsters stirred, creatures of pure malice, drawn to the scent of despair. He tried to stand. His body refused. And then light. A soft glow pulsed from his trembling hand. The gacha sigil, once useless, now blazed with impossible radiance. Symbols danced through the air like constellations breaking free. A voice echoed within the void. "Summon complete!" From the circle stepped a woman, tall, silver-haired, eyes like fractured stars. Her armor shimmered with divine frost. She knelt before him and spoke the words that would change the world. "I am May, summoned through your gift. Level 9999. My power is yours, master." The dungeon quaked. A monster lunged from the dark, a titan of flesh and rage. May moved once, and the creature ceased to exist. Ash fell where death had stood. Light stared at his trembling hands, then at her calm expression. Laughter, uneasy, broken, rose from his chest. So, it wasn't useless after all. From betrayal came revelation. From despair, dominion. Somewhere above, his former comrades celebrated his death. They would soon learn what he had become. Because in the deepest part of the world, a human had found the power of a god, and the will to use it. "They took my trust," he whispered. "I'll take their world." Fade to black. The sound of distant chains shattering echoes into silence. The abyss slept no more. Where silence once ruled, the hum of new power now echoed through every stone. Light stood beneath the shattered ceiling of the dungeon's lowest floor. The faint glow of the gacha sigil pulsed across his skin, a heartbeat not his own. Beside him, May, the silver guardian of level 9999, watched in stillness. Her eyes carried no emotion, only purpose. "Command me, master." The words felt foreign, almost cruel. A day ago, he had been a weak human begging for approval. Now, something ancient and infinite had bent the knee. He didn't understand it, and yet he couldn't deny the rush surging through his veins. He lifted his hand, and a translucent window appeared before him. Lines of arcane code flowing like light. Unlimited gacha, active. Cards flickered through the air, spinning faster, faster, until one stopped between his fingers. A sword materialized, obsidian edge wrapped in light. The weight of destiny in his palm. "If this is a dream," he whispered, "then let me never wake." May moved beside him, scanning the darkness. Enemies approaching. Permission to eliminate? He hesitated only a breath. Granted. What followed was less a battle and more a purge. Monsters surged from every tunnel, claws scraping against stone. And May answered with grace and annihilation. Blades of frozen light cut through the dark. Each strike left afterimages hanging like ghostly stars. Light watched, terrified, awed, alive. Every scream, Every explosion carved itself into his soul. When the dust settled, only silence and the scent of ozone remained. For the first time, the dungeon feared him. He stared into the endless corridors ahead. A single thought burned behind his eyes. If I can summon one like her, how many more could I call? He opened the gacha window again. Cards shimmered, thousands of possibilities whispering promises of revenge. Power without limit. May turned to him, her expression unreadable. Master, your heart rate is rising. He smiled faintly. Good. That means I'm alive. And as the last torch flickered out, Light stepped forward. No longer the boy who fell, but the man who would rise. Somewhere above, the world remained unaware. But the abyss had just given birth to a legend. Time meant nothing in the abyss. Minutes bled into hours, hours into days, and the dungeon began to feel less like a prison, and more like a forge. Light had stopped counting how many monsters May had slain. Bones crunched under her heels. Mana storms followed her every step. And yet, the deeper they went, the stranger the air became, thick with whispers, the kind that spoke in half-truths. Each level of the abyss carried a memory. A kingdom that once was, a sin that refused to die. Ruins of forgotten temples told stories of power, sacrifice, and betrayal, stories that felt far too familiar. Light wandered through a hall of broken statues, each bearing the faces of beings who called themselves gods. He ran his fingers over the cracked marble, feeling the scars that time had carved. They built this place to test their creations, I said quietly. Those who failed became part of the walls. Her voice echoed like wind through glass. Light said nothing, but his jaw tightened. He could almost hear the screams of those who had fallen before him. When the next wave of creatures came, they were different, faster, hungrier, intelligent. The abyss had begun to notice him. Every victory now came at a price. For every beast he struck down, another shadow took shape at the edge of his vision. May's blades sang through the dark, but Light hesitated. He found himself wondering if power always demanded blood. If every step upward meant losing a piece of himself. He summoned another ally from the gacha, a mage wrapped in chains of light. The summoning took more energy than he expected. Pain rippled through his chest, sharp and cold. His gift had limits, limits he refused to acknowledge. Master, May warned, your essence is fracturing. Then I'll break it, he replied. If this is the cost of power, so be it. The mage joined the fray, and together they pushed deeper still. The walls pulsed like veins, the floor glowed beneath their feet. At the end of the corridor, a door awaited, carved with the symbol of a single eye. When Light touched it, the dungeon whispered his name. The door opened, revealing darkness so thick it breathed. He stepped forward, voice steady, heart unshaken. If the shadows wish to test me, let them. And as the gate closed behind him, the world above trembled. For the boy once betrayed was learning not just how to survive, but how to rule. For the first time in weeks, Light felt sunlight touch his skin. It burned like judgment. He stood at the edge of the abyss, the mouth of the world yawning behind him. What he left below could never follow him openly. Not May, not the summoned soldiers, not the truth. The world above belonged to masks. He wrapped himself in a cloak of shadow and silence, stepping onto the worn cobblestones of Valen, the city. Above, banners flapped in the wind. Merchants shouted. Life here pulsed with color. Loud, reckless, blind. And yet, beneath it all, Light could smell it, corruption. The same stench that had driven him to the edge of death. This city, too, was ruled by power, not monsters, but men. He moved through the crowd like a ghost. People brushed past him, unaware that a god walked among them. The guards eyed him once and looked away, sensing something they couldn't name. At a tavern called the Broken Crown, he overheard whispers. Talk of an adventurer party that had lost a human boy during a dungeon raid. How tragic, they said. How unfortunate. How easily the world forgot the weak. They drink while I rebuild an empire, he muttered, Let them. That night, he found a quiet room overlooking the city square. May appeared through shadow, unseen by all but him. Her armor shimmered briefly before fading into illusion. "The surface is noisy," she said. "Noisier than I remember." "Noise hides truth," Light replied. "We'll use that." He spread a map across the table, circles marking the noble houses, guild halls, and magic towers. Every name belonged to someone who had profited from his suffering. The first stage of his revenge had begun. He was no longer the boy buried in the dark. He was the shadow walking in daylight, unseen, untouchable, inevitable. From the streets below came laughter, music, and the sound of bells. But to Light, it was all just noise before the storm. "Let them celebrate their peace," he said softly. "They'll soon remember the cost of betrayal." And as midnight fell over Valen, the wind carried the faint echo of chains breaking once more. In Valen, heroes were worshipped like gods. Statues lined the plazas, songs echoed through taverns, and banners bore names drenched in hollow glory. At the top of that gilded pedestal stood the Concord of Nine, Light's former party. The same group that left him to die. From the shadows of an alley, Light watched them smile for the crowd. Their armor gleamed, their words dripped with virtue. He remembered when those same hands had pushed him into darkness. The crowd cheered, blind to the truth. They called them saviors. He called them liars. "The world remembers their victory," he whispered. "It will soon remember their sins." That night, Light infiltrated their celebration at the guild hall, not as an assassin, but as an observer. A servant's cloak, a hood, a calm mask. He walked among them unseen, listening. Every laugh. Every false toast. Every mention of the human who didn't make it. At the head of the table sat Reyes, their leader, the one who had delivered the final push. Reyes spoke of valor and sacrifice, his voice thick with lies. He didn't even flinch when he mentioned Light's name. It was as if the boy had never existed. May's voice echoed faintly in Light's ear, a whisper from the shadows. "You could end this now." "Not yet," he answered. "Justice without fear is meaningless." He left before dawn unnoticed. But the first seeds of reckoning had already been sown. Every word, every glance, he memorized it all. The next day, rumors began to spread. A merchant swore he saw a man with Light's eyes. A priest dreamed of a black flame beneath the city. And in the dungeons of Valen, the monsters stirred, summoned by a will stronger than the abyss itself. Light didn't strike that week. He didn't need to. Fear had already begun to move faster than his blade ever could. "Let them feel hunted," he said. "Let them remember what it means to be prey." Above, the city's bells rang for another festival. Below, shadows crept through every street. The age of false heroes was ending. And in their place, a new legend was preparing to rise. Beneath the gilded streets of Valen lay another city, one the nobles pretended didn't exist. They called it Revenge, the Hidden Kingdom. A labyrinth of old tunnels, half-forgotten cathedrals, and markets that never saw the sun. It was here that truth survived, and where Light would find his next ally. The people of Revenge didn't care for crowns or banners. They cared for survival. Criminals, outcasts, and wanderers had built their own order in the shadows, a place ruled not by power, but by debt. Light moved through the winding alleys, cloak pulled low. Whispers followed him like smoke. The stories of the Abyss survivor had reached even here. Some believed him a ghost, others a devil. At the heart of the city stood a temple of cracked marble. Inside, candles burned with blue flame. There, he met Celine, a seer who could read truth in the eyes of gods. She didn't bow. She didn't fear him. She only asked one question. "Do you seek revenge or redemption?" Light hesitated. For the first time, the question felt heavier than his sword. His silence was answer enough. Celine smiled faintly. "Then you'll need more than anger to change this world." She led him to the inner chamber, where ancient murals covered the walls. They depicted the 9 races, not as enemies, but as equals, bound by a single flame that had long gone out. Celine spoke of an old prophecy, that when the world drowned in lies, a human marked by infinite choice would awaken the lost fire. Light said nothing, but deep within, a flicker stirred. Not of vengeance, but of purpose. As he left the temple, May appeared from the shadows. Her voice was quiet, almost human. "Do you believe in prophecy, Master?" "No," he replied. "But I believe in change." And for the first time since his fall, Light looked upward. Not toward revenge, but toward the horizon. The abyss had given him power. The city had given him purpose. Now the world would give him soldiers. Deep beneath Valen, in the ruins of a forgotten fortress, Light stood before an ancient summoning circle. Its walls were carved with runes that predated the gods, a lattice of light and shadow interwoven like fate itself. He placed his hand upon the sigil, and the air cracked open. Unlimited Gacha, full release. Dozens of cards spiraled from the void, spinning faster with every heartbeat. Each one pulsed with a soul waiting to be chosen. The dungeon's cold air shifted, whispering, pleading, promising. Light drew the first. Then another. Then 10 more. From the circles emerged warriors of every kind. An armored knight whose body was pure obsidian. A silent archer cloaked in silver flame. A healer whose tears glowed like starlight. They knelt, one by one. May stood behind him, watching with quiet reverence. "Your army, Master." But Light didn't see soldiers. He saw the beginning of something far greater. Each summon came with a voice, a story, a memory. They were not mere constructs. They were remnants of forgotten heroes, bound by his will and reborn through his gift. Every one of them looked to him not as a summoner, but as a king. He raised his hand, and the chamber fell silent. "You've all been discarded by the world above," he said. "Just like me. But together, we will rewrite it." The walls trembled with the echo of his words. For the first time, the shadows answered, not in whispers, but in unity. They would be known as the Shadow Legion. A force unseen, unstoppable, unbound by the laws of gods or men. As torches flickered to life around him, Light gazed upon his creation. The boy who had once begged for recognition now commanded an army that could burn kingdoms. May stepped closer, her tone soft but wary. "Every army needs a war, Master." He met her eyes. "And every war needs a purpose." Somewhere above, thunder rolled, though no storm had formed. The world had begun to feel his presence. And soon, it would remember his name. The first strike came before dawn. A scream tore through the silence of Valen as fire erupted from the eastern quarter. When the smoke cleared, the noble district was gone, swallowed by black flames that left no ash behind. The Shadow Legion had moved. From the rooftops, archers cloaked in spectral light loosed arrows that sang like thunder. Through the streets marched the obsidian knight, every step cracking the earth beneath him. And at their center, calm as death itself, walked Light. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He simply raised his hand, and the city obeyed. The guards rallied, mages unleashed torrents of fire, and priests called upon divine wrath. But none of it mattered. Every spell shattered against the invisible barrier of May's defense. Every sword met the cold inevitability of the Gacha's creations. From above, it looked less like a battle, and more like a purge. Light moved through the chaos with purpose, eyes fixed on the towering guild hall, the heart of the city's corruption. Inside, Ray's waited, the man who once called him brother. The great hall trembled as Light entered, shadows spilling in behind him like liquid night. Ray's turned, disbelief flashing across his face. You're supposed to be dead." "I was," Light said. "You made sure of that." Their blades met, steel against magic, memory against vengeance. Ray's fought like a hero, Light fought like a storm. Every strike carried the weight of betrayal. Every movement was fueled by everything he had lost. When the dust settled, Ray's lay broken on the marble floor. Light stood over him, his reflection shimmering in the pool of spilled light. You killed me once, he said quietly. Now it's your turn to remember what that feels like. He turned away before the final blow landed. He didn't need to watch. Justice had already been served, and vengeance satisfied. Outside, the Shadow Legion withdrew, silent and precise. The city burned, but not from hatred, from rebirth. That night, the moon turned red over Valen. Every noble, every general, every false hero felt it in their bones. The age of gods and kingdoms was ending. A new throne was rising, forged in betrayal, bound by shadow. And on that throne, Light would sit. Not as a savior, not as a demon, but as something the world had never seen before. A human who refused to die. The war was over. Valen was silent, a city of ashes and echoes. From the highest spire, Light watched the smoke drift toward the horizon. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like standing on a grave. Below, the Shadow Legion tended to the ruins. Not rebuilding, merely existing. Warriors without homes, bound only by his command. Their eyes followed him, waiting for purpose. But for once, Light had none to give. He walked through the burned streets, each step sinking into the soot of what once was. Every corner carried ghosts. Laughter turned to screams, names turned to silence. He remembered the faces of those who'd called him friend. Even Rays. Even the ones who had betrayed him. You can't erase pain, they said softly, walking beside him. Only replace it. Then I've done nothing but trade one cage for another. They stopped at the ruins of the guild hall, the place where it all began. The marble floor was cracked, the banners torn, but one thing remained. A single sword embedded in the stone. Rays' sword. Light knelt beside it. His reflection flickered in the blade, not the human boy he once was, but the monster he had become. He remembered the day they'd left him in the dark. The fear. The hate. The moment he swore he'd destroy them all. And now, with that promise fulfilled, all that remained was silence. Is this what power feels like? He asked quietly. Emptiness wearing a crown? May said nothing. Her expression, calm, but her eyes betrayed something close to sorrow. That night, Light stood on the city walls as the moon rose red again. He looked down at the Shadow Legion below, his creation, his burden. They didn't need a god. They needed a man. If I can destroy a kingdom, he whispered, then I can build one. For the first time, the fire in his chest flickered, not from rage, but from resolve. And as dawn broke over the ruins, the boy who once sought revenge began to wonder if he could still find redemption. Dawn came late to Valen. For days, the city slept beneath a blood-red sky, half in ruins, half in rebirth. And at its heart stood the man who had ended one age, and unknowingly begun another. Light had not spoken for 3 days. He watched the people rebuild, not out of loyalty, but out of survival. The Shadow Legion guarded the walls in silence, their spectral armor glinting beneath the rising sun. They no longer looked like monsters. They looked like guardians. But the world beyond Valen was stirring. Messengers whispered of kingdoms uniting, of gods angered by a mortal who defied them. The balance was breaking. And at the center of it all, a human with the power of infinity. May approached quietly, her silver hair catching the light. They call you Demon Lord now, she said. Let them call what they fear, Light replied. He turned to face the horizon. For the first time, he could see it clearly, not as something distant, but as something his. All his life, he had been told what humans could not do. Now, he was rewriting those rules with every breath. He closed his eyes and summoned the Gacha once more. But this time, it wasn't for war. It was for creation. Towers rose from the ground, cities mended, the earth itself bowed to his command. From destruction, he built sanctuary. From vengeance, order. And from shadow, light. Yet even as the people began to kneel, he felt no pride, only purpose. He wasn't a hero, nor a god, nor a demon. He was simply Light, the boy who refused to die. who had clawed his way from betrayal to become something beyond legend. The winds shifted. In the distance, thunder cracked, a warning from the heavens themselves. The gods were watching. The next war was coming. Light looked upward, eyes blazing with calm defiance. "If the gods fear what I've become," he said, "then they should remember, I'm not done evolving." And as lightning split the sky, the screen faded to black. A single voice whispered, "The story of the Demon Lord has only just begun."